You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
And welcome to this week's edition of GHS-TV's award-winning talk show, Crosstalk. I'm your host, Scarlett Simpson. Each week in this time slot, we take a look at different issues, personalities, and events that affect you and our community. Music has been used to express spirituality since the beginning of religion itself. Some have even described it to be a divine experience. It's no wonder that the most commonly practiced world religions all use some form of music in worship. Today, we will discover the place that liturgical music holds in different religions and how it has evolved over the years to fit a changing world. The music of Judaism is expressed not through large choral ensembles, but rather through individual cantors who use religious music to preach the word. Joining me now is Cantor Aryeh Samberg from the Anshei, Sphard, Beth El Emeth congregation. Mr. Samberg, thank you so much for being on the show.
Hi.
Well, as a cantor, what is your role in the synagogue?
So one of the major roles that I have is to lead the prayer service, and you basically on Sabbath and on the holidays, and hopefully to instill and to bring to a musical experience to the congregation as well at the same time, and to infuse the service with the correct kind of music that will inspire them and inspire me and make a connection between the congregation and our Creator.
Well, in the Jewish faith, what you sing is not necessarily songs. They are actually prayers. Can you talk more about that?
Right. The prayers themselves have different modes of music, very traditional chants that have gone back many, many centuries. We don't exactly know how long. There are also different traditions. For example, Jews from the Middle Eastern countries, they have totally different traditions than we Jews that have our origins in the European countries. So, and again, each tradition, I'm sure, has been influenced by its surrounding culture and communities from the non-Jewish world. So therefore, but we have evolved into very specific traditions, and they're still evolving. They're still changing. Tastes, musical tastes change. What was palatable to people 50 years ago may not be to many people today. So therefore, we always have to kind of adapt and try to bridge out into new areas, at the same time maintaining the tradition.
Well, you did mention different prayer modes. Can you go into more detail about those?
Well, for example, if you're praying, you're reciting a prayer about the kingship of God, so then that most likely will be in the major key, in a major mode. Something more prayerful where we're requesting something, begging for something, that might be in the minor mode. There's Phrygian mode we use a lot, and a lot of incidentals and a lot of Oriental sounding music. So there are those kinds of modes, different. I don't want to get too complicated here, but every prayer has its own specific traditional mode that it's supposed to be sung in.
Well, Mr. Samberg, we got a chance to hear you sing before the show. What prayer did you recite?
I did from a prayer from the High Holiday service from Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which is, of course, the new year for in the Jewish calendar, and Yom Kippur is, of course, the Day of Atonement. And on that day, we are asking for a good year. We're praying for a good year. And we're actually reminding ourselves that in the Hebrew, it's B'Rosh Hashanah Yikatevun. On Rosh Hashanah, the new year will be inscribed. U'v'yom tzom Kippur yechosemun. And on the Day of Atonement, on Yom Kippur, we will be sealed. How many will pass from the earth? How many will be created? Who will live and who will die? Who will die at his predestined time, and who before his time, who by water and who by fire. and who by sword. And it's a very emotional prayer at the time for the congregation, but we end on a high note that uteshuva, utefil, utedaka, ma'avirin es roa hagezera. Repentance, prayer, and charity can remove the evil decree. Berosh Hashana yikasevun Uviyom Tzom Kippur yechasemun Berosh Hashana yikasevun Uviyom Tzom Kippur yechasemun Kama yaverun v'chama yibareyun michye umi
Well, Mr. Samberg, how did the prayers that are sung during a Jewish holiday set the tone for that holiday?
So again, every holiday has its own theme, and Passover, we're talking about the Passover sacrifices that we used to bring in the Holy Temple, and on Sukkot we're joyous. We've just come through the high holidays, and now we're sitting in God's tabernacle. We build a hut in our backyard, and we're sitting there, living outside, eating and sleeping, and we're reminding ourselves that we're under God's protection, and we're joyous for that. And on Shavuot, it's a holiday where the anniversary when we received the Torah from God, and therefore we're joyous about that. So, as I mentioned, Rosh Hashanah is where it's a bit more serious. Yom Kippur is certainly a lot more serious. We're fasting. We're wearing white. We're asking for atonement for all of our sins. We're asking each other, our fellow people, our fellow human beings, for atonement as well for anything we may have done to wrong them during the year. And it's a very serious time. So we try to reflect that in the prayers as well.
Well, Mr. Samberg, thank you so much for being on the show today, and that was a beautiful performance.
Thank you.
We have to take a short break. When we come back, we will take a look at the ways Christian music has evolved to fit the traditions of its many denominations. Stay with us.
I wish I was in school.
If only I had a math test today.
I'll stay after class. I'll clean the chalkboard.
I wish I was in school.
School ends, but free lunches for your kids don't have to. Find your local food bank at feedingamerica.org/summer meals for help.
Hello, and welcome to Cable Quiz. The academic.
Do you know how incredible it is to work at a TV station in high school?
GHS-TV is a student-run television station.
There's so many things you can do here at GHS-TV. You can be in front or behind the camera or both. You have that opportunity. There are no limits.
Where we have sports and we have news and we have entertainment. So the students here get a well-rounded view of what it's like to be in the TV field.
It's my life. It's what I want to do.
From all of us here at GHS-TV, thanks for starting your morning with us. For more information about the Kappa program, visit ghskappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. When separate branches of the Christianity began to form, new versions of Christian music and worship soon followed. One particular style of Christian music that has broken off from the traditional hymns is contemporary Christian music, or CCM. Hope Church is a good example of how CCM can enhance a worship service. Here's a sample of what you can hear during a typical Sunday service.
Are you hurting or broken within? Overwhelmed by the weight of your sin? Jesus is calling. Have you come to the end of yourself? Do you thirst for a drink from the well? Jesus is calling. Sing, oh come. Oh come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Leave behind your regrets and mistakes. Come today, there's no reason to wait. Jesus is calling. Oh, bring your sorrows and trade them for joy. From the ashes a new life is born. Jesus is calling. Oh, oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ.
Joining me to talk about the newest form of Christian music is Daniel Oppenhuizen, Musical Worship Director at Hope Church. Mr. Oppenhuizen, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, what a performance. Can you talk about the evolution of contemporary music throughout the decades? It's changed so much over the years.
Yeah, so Aryeh just spoke a minute ago about how liturgical they are with their music. With our music, it's a little less liturgical and a little more based on the emotions and feelings of the things that people go through on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis. So music changes not only with the lyrics but also with the feeling of songs. So as styles have changed on the radio with secular music, it also has changed within the church. Similar to clothing, you don't see anybody wearing a 20-year-old pair of jeans anymore. So we kind of have changed with music as well to make sure and appeal to people from each generation as we go through.
Well, why has Hope Church decided to join the contemporary music train instead of going with the traditional hymns?
So Hope Church is based on what we call seekers. So we want to be church for the unchurched as much as we can. So people that have given up on church, people that have maybe turned their back on what a church stands for, maybe feel comfortable coming to a place like Hope where things are a little more relaxed, things are a little just a little more appealing to people that haven't grown up in the church, or maybe church isn't appealing to them. And so we have changed our style to fit that mode of people so that we can reach as many of those folks as we can.
Well, Mr. Oppenhuizen, how do you pick songs for each service?
We have a team of staff members that it's about 5 of us, and we go through week to week and select songs for 4 worship songs and 1 special during which we accept an offering. And within those 5 songs total, we try to do something distinctly gospel, something distinctly contemporary, and something that we try to hit for younger folks, millennials. And so we put all those into the hopper and try to pick the best songs that we can based on what appeals to the congregation.
Well, your performances during your service are very elaborate. Can you walk us through the beginning of music rehearsal to service?
Right, so we have a choir as well as a front line and a band, and all of the pieces come together at different times. The choir rehearses twice during the week. The front line rehearses separately from the band, and the band rehearses separately from the front line, and then we all come together after about an hour and put the pieces together and usually make them all fit for the service.
Well, what is the value of contemporary music in our worship?
So worship appeals to the heart. It helps people connect the emotions that they're having, the emotions that they have during their struggles with Christ. And so with music, what it does is it allows you to find the words that you can't find to speak. You find the words that the heart needs to let out through the emotions of the music. And I think that's a major part of what people need to be able to connect to Christ and connect with each other on a week-to-week basis.
Well, you were just talking about the effects that music has on people, but why do you think this is?
I think that music has the ability to connect all of your senses. So when you're at a performance or at a service and you look and you're able to see something, you're able to hear it, you're able to feel it, you're able to do all of these things at one time, and that gives a greater opportunity for impact in your life, because all of those emotions, all of those feelings, all of those senses coming together, they help work in your heart. Whether we realize it or not, it's not only with Christian music, it's with all music, period.
Well, Mr. Oppenhuizen, some people say that the contemporary art form is actually sinful. What would you say to people who think that?
I think that it's silly, frankly. I don't think that God works in any one way. I think that He has the ability to work in all styles of music, whether it's somebody from Aryeh's church or somebody from Rod's church, who you'll hear from next. There's no one way to worship, and worship is about so much more than music. So I think it would be silly to say that that's anything other than worship itself.
Well, Mr. Oppenhuizen, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We have to take another short break. When we come back, we will talk with a minister of music from a slightly older but no less exciting genre of Christian music. Please stay with us.
The instrumental music program here at Germantown High School is special because of all the things that we'll do throughout a year. We start the year doing marching band, and very quickly we move into concert band. We provide the orchestra for the spring musical. We just have myriad things that we take part in throughout the year.
My favorite part of being in the band is probably all of the different kinds of musics we play.
We have a woodwind ensemble, or a brass, a jazz ensemble.
All those different opportunities create a place for students who excel in different areas. I think that diversity allows us to be one of the most unique programs in the area.
For more information about the Kappa program, visit GHS-Kappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. I'm Scarlett Simpson. Gospel music was created to give Christians a religious alternative to mainstream music. It blends traditional Christian tunes with jazz and blues to form a new style never before heard in the 1930s. Here to talk about this form of Christian music worship is First Baptist Broad's Minister of Music, Roderick Vester. Mr. Vester, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, gospel music is deeply rooted within the traditions of many African American churches. Mr. Vester, can you go into detail about the origin?
Yes, absolutely. Well, we first saw the word gospel song in 1874. So, and gospel music is traced back until about the 17th century. Within that, there are so many different styles and different genres within African American sacred music. It's really monolithic in its approach, in that there's, certain churches choose what styles they do. And so it's hard to kind of place gospel music into one type of umbrella because you have contemporary, traditional, you have spirituals, and within spirituals you have many different forms of spirituals, freedom songs, work songs, and so forth and so on. But for the most part, it's the good news, and that's what gospel music, of course, stands for.
Well, by its very definition, the term gospel means good news. How does this translate into the music?
Yeah, well, not all gospel music is theologically based, but many of the gospel songs that are performed now are, some are not. But as far as that, how it transforms into lyrical content is that it's a shared experience from a composer. And so they are telling the good news of Jesus, or they're telling the good news of, how God delivered them from something, or, it's just to inspire people. So that's kind of how it translates into the lyrical content.
Well, Mr. Vester, what all do you do in your musical ministry?
Yes, as far as roles or as far as music?
Both.
Okay, yes, so we have a very diverse music program. So we perform classical music, we perform spirituals, of course we perform gospel music, traditional and contemporary. Within my role, I oversee all things music. We have 7 different ensembles, 6 vocal ensembles and 1 instrumental ensemble. Manage 8 staff members, paid and volunteer. And so within that, it's kind of all things music that I work within.
Well, music can lift the spirit. How does your music at your church lift the spirit of your churchgoers?
Yeah, it's very energetic. It's very intentional with the music that we choose. As I said before, not all gospel music tells, it's about the good news. Some of it's just inspirational. But what we tend to do, and how I go about selecting music, is make sure it's theologically sound, and that it's rooted in the gospel and the word of God.
Well, how important is the music to you?
The music is very important to me. I always tell our adult choirs that the music has to reach you first before it can reach the congregation. So yeah, music is my passion. It's what I've done since I was 5 years old, playing piano, and yeah, it's extremely important to me.
Well, Mr. Vester, how is your music at your church different from others?
I think it's different because we offer blended music. I think many times in a lot of churches you hear one style of music. When you come to us, First Baptist Broad, you hear a spectrum of music. You hear traditional, you hear spirituals, classical, you hear everything. You may hear a piece done in a different language, whether it be Yoruba, which is an African dialect, or whether it's Latin. So that's what really makes us different.
Well, what all goes into your performances on Sunday?
Yes. Music starts at the beginning. We usually start we have a prelude to worship in which the singers will sing before the service actually starts. There's a praise and worship segment. There's congregational singing, which is like a more hymn type of singing. And then there's instrumental playing. We fellowship and hug one another and that type of thing. And there's instrumental music during that time. And it just depends on what Sunday it is. But there's music throughout the entire service.
Well, Mr. Vester, how does the church come together during gospel?
Oh, yes. I think we come together to worship for the most part, to to praise and to worship, which are two different things. And so we come together with one particular goal in mind, and that's to give praises to God. And so that happens through everyone just, through the leadership, first of all, coming together with worship planning and making sure that we select things that will uplift people. But I think for the most part, everyone comes together with that in mind, just to praise and worship.
Well, you've mentioned before all of the different kinds of songs and genres that you go through. Mm-hmm. Can you take me through the process of choosing a song for specific Sundays and specific worships?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Most of the times we follow the liturgical calendar. So if there's Easter, which is about the resurrection, music follows that. We do a lot of thematic type of services in which, our pastor will give a sermon series and then we play music around that. But as far as week by week, what we try to do is select music that's going to touch all people. So, if it's traditional, if it's gospel, if whatever it is, we try to make sure that it's blended and that, everyone can get something out of the music.
Well, Mr. Vester, thank you so much. And I'm so excited to hear your choir sing. Though the countless forms of liturgical music differ, they clearly all share the same purpose, to praise. I'd like to thank my guests for sharing their sacred music with us. Remember, Crosstalk can be seen each week at 9:30 a.m. and 7 p.m. on Mondays and Thursdays, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 a.m. and 12 p.m. and 7 p.m. on Sundays. For more information on our programming, please check us out on the web at GHS-TV.org, where we're streaming live 24 hours a day. You can also check us out on Facebook and Twitter. I'm Scarlett Simpson from all of us at GHS-TV. Thank you for watching Crosstalk, and I hope to see you again.